Good evening, Cuse Nation, and welcome to the Upstate Orange podcast, recorded live inside the FingerLakes1.com studios in downtown Seneca Falls, New York. It's Thursday, February 27th, 2014, and tonight we're going to be talking about the fourth-ranked, 26-2, Syracuse Orange. After Syracuse splits a pair on the road, since we were last in studio, we'll talk about the games in Cameron, or the game in Cameron, and Coach Boeheim's performance. We'll look ahead at Saturday's third straight road game at Virginia. And, of course, we'll have some Syracuse basketball trivia at the bottom of the hour. I'm Jim Sinacropi in studio along with Matt Verke. Welcome back to the studio, Verk.
What's going on, Jim?
And you hosted a nice Duke-Syracuse party. We had a great time.
Yeah.
I think some of the moms might not have been too happy with what I was saying around their kids at the end of that game, but they'll learn.
Yeah.
Kids got to learn somehow.
That's right.
And, of course, via Cincinnati, on the phone, our resident college basketball guru, the professor, Brad Connor. How's it going, Brad?
I'm okay.
Haven't talked to you at all. We haven't even exchanged emails or texts since that Duke game or the Maryland game, so I'm excited to get your takes tonight. So let's get to it. The Upstate Orange podcast is brought to you by Generations Bank with locations in Auburn, Geneva, Phelps, Seneca Falls, Union Springs, and Waterloo. Check out their mobile banking app or visit them online at mygenbank.com. And Seneca Meadows, responsible waste management for the next generation. Learn more online at senecameadows.com. And by our friends at Madej, Miras, and Ricky, your hometown personal injury attorneys. If you've been injured and deserve compensation, call the Finger Lakes Personal Injury Hotline at 315-568-0911. That's 315-568-0911. A million topics to cover tonight. Let's get to it now with our Big Five questions. Question one, fellas. Are you upset with the Jim Boeheim meltdown at Cameron on Saturday night? Or more specifically, are you upset with Jim Boeheim? Brad?
There's two ways I can think about this. If in any way, shape, or form his antics were calculated and preordained, then no, not at all. I kind of liked it.
Yeah.
If it was just the fact that he let himself get out of control and didn't have his wits about him at all and just acted out of just impetuousness, then yeah, I'm definitely disappointed. So, and I don't think he'll ever tell us which way, where his motivations were, because I've seen a lot of different takes on it either way. We've seen that happen before, or we've at least claimed that to be the case before, where he tries to deflect attention from his team and put it on himself. If that was what he was doing, then it was pure genius. But I'm not convinced of that.
How about you, Verk? What's your take?
Yeah, I mean, I was a little upset for a couple of reasons, but one, he took any chance of Syracuse winning away, and I didn't like his reaction saying, "Oh, the game was over," because the game was not over at that point. With I think there's 11 or 12 seconds to go at that time, and it's a 2-point game. I mean, it's that if Duke goes 1 for 2 at the line, we have a chance to tie it on a 3-pointer. I would have liked to seen how that would have played out.
Not only that, but just like the NC State game, we could have got a turnover off the press. And maybe it wouldn't have even come down to free throws.
Yeah, who knows? He just was very, I thought, when he said, "Oh, the game was over," that was the game. It wasn't. It was, maybe a 4% chance they win, but there's still a chance. Who thought they're going to win Pittsburgh or NC State or some of those
Especially
games,
with this team, I think that percentage is even higher just
So,
because they have a track record of
I understand why he went crazy, and he thought he was getting the raw deal most of the night, and that put him over the edge, and he lost it. And I like the fire. I think they bounce back and beat Maryland, and they go beat Virginia, and I think people forget about that. And let's hope that happens.
Yeah. Well, my take on it First of all, just the theater of it all, and you gotta love it. It's even though Jim Boeheim's never been ejected from a game in his career, a regular season game, it still is classic Jim Boeheim. He's a character of the game, and he's the face of Syracuse basketball, and he was the thing everybody was talking about the next 2 days following that game, and they're still talking about it, and we're still talking about it. I think, he did cost us a chance to win the game. I do think it was partially premeditated. The one reason I'm really behind it, though, is when we decided we were going to come into the ACC, first thing I said was, oh, boy, here we go. Get ready to get the screw job in Cameron and UNC every year from the officials, or, that's going to be us now. We're going to be NC State and company always complaining about getting hosed at the end at Duke. And then what happens? End of the game, first time ever, hose job. And you can't debate the call. It was a bad call. Bad calls happen, but right there at the end of that Duke game really is when they're going to miss the call. And then you couple that with the Benajay blocking call, which was virtually the same play earlier, and you just can't help but wonder. And then you watch Duke win games consistently where a jump shot hits short, like so short it's almost an air ball, and then it pops up in the air and goes in. It's like they control the tension on the rims in that arena or something, because that shot Parker hit from the corner that went in for 3 was just terrible.
Yeah, and I still think that call, it's I think if you ask 100 referees, 51 say one thing, 49 say another.
I think that it's more like 9 referees say that's a block.
No, well, they asked a bunch, and they were pretty much split on it. And
stupid referees just looking out for their own fraternity. There's what's going on.
It's a tough call. If you really watch it, the ref kind of, I thought, got a late look at it. Like he was looking the other way, and he kind of looked back and saw it.
Yeah.
Maybe he should have asked for help from the outside guys, or don't call anything.
That's
in
what
my
I like,
mind,
yeah.
It's such a tough call. They're breaking it down by microframes, and it's just with the new rules. And you can be moving your feet as long as you're in a defensive legal guarding position. There's so many things that go into that call. But I think the thing that really was upsetting was that I thought when watching Jabari Parker running the Benajay live, the first time I saw him, I was like, wow, that's got to be a charge, and they called the block. And that call, it's tough, and there's a lot of calls that and a lot of calls like that throughout the game, though.
Brad, one thing I don't like about the way this conversation has turned about this whole Duke-Syracuse situation and splitting the games is they're saying, well, Syracuse got the call late at home and Duke got their call late at home. And that's crap. Syracuse didn't get a call. They let the players play it out, and Rakeem Christmas blocked the shot. He got his hand on the ball. That was a much less questionable call than the one at Duke. Plus, the one, like I say, the one at Syracuse was a non-call. The one at Duke was a call. If they just didn't call anything, CJ Fair ties the game, and then everybody gets what they want. Duke has the ball with a chance to win, and who knows what could have happened. But the refs intervened and took the game out of the players' hands. I mean, would you agree with that assessment, Brad?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's it. Say what you will about the NBA, but the one thing the NBA does right is the referees will swallow their whistle. They have a tendency to swallow their whistle late and let the players decide the game. No referee wants to be the reason a team won or lost. And you make a call with 10 seconds to go that's going to be a controversial call one way or the other, and the referee has just made a huge determination in the outcome of that game. And to me, that's wrong, especially when it's such a questionable call and such a bang play. And I mean, the one thing, guys, I mean, this wasn't talked about enough, but there's, you can argue if it's a block or if it's a charge, but in a lot of cases when the offensive guy makes an effort to avoid the contact, it's rarely called a charge. And CJ did exactly that. He tried to go around the defender. He tried to hit him from the side. He didn't go barreling into him straight on. Now, Jabari Parker did exactly that against Benajay. And
right.
Again, Syracuse didn't get the benefit of the doubt on that when he's kind of out of control and he stumbled over Benajay. And more often than not, they'll give the defense the benefit of the doubt there. The fact that CJ did everything he could to avoid the contact and still got called for the charge. That to me was the most egregious part of it. And like I said, if they swallowed their whistle, we'd have had an entirely different conversation in the outcome of the game. Duke may still have won, but the players would have decided it, and that's the way it should have been.
Well, one last thing before we get off of this topic. I got a lot of stories, articles from like the Raleigh area emailed to me the next day or two, and a lot of texts from people I know down there, NC State fans specifically. And, the general gist was that Boeheim's pretty much a cult hero now with the NC State Wolfpack fans, because he's standing up to the crap that, that they've been experiencing. And in a way, kind of experienced it last night at home against UNC. I thought that T.J. Warren was really getting the raw end of a lot of calls last night. But, and one article in particular was from a radio station down in Raleigh. It said, well, when Syracuse came into the ACC, it was kind of strange, and we wondered how long it would take for them to feel like they were part of an ACC. And then the article said, welcome to the ACC, Syracuse. I said, now we can exchange stories about getting screwed at Cameron and late calls gone wrong against UNC. And so there's that whole aspect of it. But it may end up costing us an ACC championship at the end of the day, and I'd like not to think about it, but it might cost us a chance at a number one seed unless we seal the deal here coming home in the final stretch. So,
and I think some other things that get overlooked is who knows what would happen if we still could have lost that game, obviously, if they no call or whatever. But Syracuse could have played better, obviously, and done some things a little differently in that game to not be in quite that situation. But obviously, so much on that call. You know what I mean? It's and that happens often, and just not in a primetime game like that.
Well, moving on to question 2. I just want you guys to grade the Orange, in a A+, B+, C+, whatever, on the 2-game road trip split, losing to Duke by 1 at Cameron, and then surviving against Maryland in a game that we kind of had control of. Verk, what do you grade the Orange?
I give them a B. I thought they played. They had a chance to win that game at Duke, which obviously is a great effort. Their defense was unbelievable. Obviously, holding Duke to 60-something points, I believe it was.
Yep.
Obviously, they struggled offensively. Tyler Ennis, 2 for 13.
Cooney
couldn't. He just couldn't get a shot off. I mean, we were watching the game. There's times I'd look over and be like, "Is Cooney playing?" Because he just was. There'd be 10, 15 minutes where he didn't just caught it and passed it. You know what I mean?
Yep.
The centers were in foul trouble all game against Duke. CJ didn't have – nobody really had – Grant had a good game, I would say, and he was battling injury a little bit. But in general, I think they played well enough to win at Cameron, which you got to give them a good grade for that. 66 – so, who knows. But Maryland –
Grant being out the whole second half.
Yeah. I just felt Maryland they should have beat by 15, even with Grant being out. There's some lazy turnovers against things that Syracuse doesn't typically do. They did.
Yeah.
And I was just waiting for Maryland to knock down a 3 and win that game at the buzzer.
How about you, Brad? What do you grade the Orange for the last 2?
I'm going to say C+. And the reason I say that is because I think Syracuse is better than both those teams and should have beaten both of them and should have beaten Maryland handily. And scoring 60 points against a team like Duke that really doesn't play a Duke style, a Duke level of defense historically, it wasn't very good. We shouldn't have been talking about that call at the end because they should have put the ball in the basket more frequently. Ennis didn't have a very good game. Verk covered it. I mean, Cooney was non-existent. The centers weren't really didn't make their presence felt, and I thought they had a lot of chances to have easier looks and to get easier baskets, and I think they're too patient, and Ennis actually is the cause for that. I think he doesn't attack enough. We've talked about that before. I think against a team like Duke that does give up easy looks, at least this season, I think they could have done more. Against Maryland, they had the opportunity to put their shoe on their throat, and they didn't. You know, they had them on the ropes. They were up 12 with 6 minutes left, and they just let Maryland stay in it. And that was bad. The centers were especially Christmas was just awful against Maryland. Against the Maryland centers were kind of bums. I didn't think they were any good at all. Ennis was, I think, good. Cooney again, it was just not there. You know, we overcame the loss of Grant. But I don't think Boeheim, as much as maybe he tried to rally the troops against Duke, I don't think it carried over against Maryland. I didn't see it. I didn't see the intensity there. I just saw a team that continues to be workmanlike and go out and do their thing, and it bites them in the butt. It did against BC, and I'm waiting for it to happen again.
To me, against Maryland, they're Trevor Cooney, 5 wide open threes away from burying them. Yeah. And he point-blank missed 5 wide open threes in the second half. He made his first 2, and I think he missed 8 in a row. And he's not going to get any better looks than he was getting that night. And he couldn't make them. Benajay didn't do much. It's they need to make some shots because they don't score the ball very well. So
I agree with you, Burke. Give him a B, maybe a B plus, because we needed to make more shots to beat Duke, but it was that type of a game, defensive game. I'm proud of the way we played down there, and in effect, we basically could have won that game if that was an and one and CJ makes a free throw. Maybe we do win that game, and we're giving them an A plus. And then as far as Maryland goes, hell, I think I would have liked to see him have an easier win too, but maybe one of the most important wins of the season, and they pulled it off. Without Jeremy Grant, you can't take Jeremy Grant off of this team and expect them to play anywhere near the same level. He brings so much athleticism on offense and defense. He's a key component. Losing Jeremy Grant is on par to me with losing C.J. Fair. Equally important on a team that's basically 6 deep, 7 deep, I should say. And then the fact that they make us go to Maryland 2 days after playing at Duke and play a team that hasn't played in a week on their home court. I mean, that is the ultimate donut game, for Syracuse. And I'm happy that we came out and gained control of that game. I just think that maybe at the end they just got a little lackadaisical, which is a natural thing to expect when you've been on the road, for the whole 3-4 days and just played the biggest game of the year, 4.2 million viewers, and then come and play Maryland on a Monday night. So I'm proud of them for pulling out that win, because that win was very, very important. And that brings me now to question 3. 4.2 million people watched SU Duke, making it the #1 cable sports telecast of the week. And so my question to you guys is, and maybe it's because UNC was down a little bit to start the year, but on Thursday night when they played, they're back into the picture in terms of top 25 and maybe making a run at the Final Four. They're playing a lot better, but obviously the Syracuse Duke games were a much bigger deal than that UNC Duke game. So my question to you is: Syracuse Duke a bigger rival? And I'm not going to say rivalry. Is Syracuse Duke a bigger deal than Syracuse UNC to the nation? Throw it up there for you guys. Brad?
No, not even close.
How can you say that? 4.2 million viewers.
If Duke and Carolina were on a Saturday night at 7 o'clock, they would have had at least that.
I don't know. I think it's missing I think the reason for it is Boeheim and Krzyzewski. And the fact that we can pack 36,000 people into our home arena.
I think, what you said this year was with Carolina starting out 1-4 in the ACC. Syracuse, when they played the first time, that such a classic game up in the Dome. All those people were there, and it went the way it did.
We were undefeated.
Both teams played great. Syracuse making this big, huge run this year. I think it was a bigger deal maybe this year because Syracuse is better than Carolina this year. So, I think, it's going to depend on, if Carolina was #1 in the country and undefeated, I think Duke, Carolina would have been bigger than Duke, Duke Syracuse, but I think it just depends on who's having the better year between Cuse and Duke or Cuse and Carolina. Personally, if Carolina comes into Duke next year in the Cameron 25-0, I think you'd see just as many people watch the game.
Is that what you think, Brad?
Yeah, that's exactly what I think. I mean, there's so much history there, and people tune in for it, and ESPN hypes those games like none other, the Duke Carolina games, and I mean that's part of it, right? It's just there's a lot of marketing that goes into it, and they hyped up the Syracuse Duke game almost exclusively because of such a great game they had the first time around. Had it been a 10-point game the first time around, I don't think they would have had nearly the hype for the second one, frankly. And it was still a big game because you've got two top 5 teams. I make less about the coaches because I don't think people tune in. People that aren't Syracuse fans, I don't think tune in to watch Jim Boeheim. I don't think they give a crap about Jim Boeheim. Frankly, we do, but I don't think people that aren't Syracuse fans do.
I don't know. I think he's a person of interest.
They do now because they think he's a head case.
Everybody knows who Boeheim is, though.
Before they just picked, we've talked about Boeheim's reputation nationally. He's whiny, blah blah blah. I would think he's got a similar reputation than someone like Bill Self, who's a great coach, who's kind of flown under the radar a little bit.
Well, I think that the nation has Carolina Duke fatigue, and I think just the same way they have Yankees Red Sox fatigue. You talk about what a huge rivalry this is and how special it is, but then you see it 2 times a year after year after year, and it just kind of loses its luster. And so Syracuse Duke is new. It's a novelty. It's never happened before. And 36,000 people in an on-campus arena for a regular season games never happened before. And the second all-time winningest coach coaching against the first all-time winningest coach has never happened before. And Syracuse going to Cameron's never happened. So it's all new, and I think it's kind of captured the imagination of America as a whole, the college basketball world. And don't underestimate our brand. Syracuse University is a strong national brand, as strong as anybody. Louisville might be more profitable, but you got to put Syracuse up there, top 5 in terms of branding of what we've done for our program. And a lot of that has to do with the Dome. A lot of that has to do with Jim Boeheim, and a lot of it has to do with the success we've had. A lot of it has to do with Carmelo Anthony. So let's move on now to question 4. And it looks like we can finish anywhere from 1st to 4th in the ACC in our inaugural season. Where are we going to finish? If you had to choose right now, if you were a betting man, where are we going to finish? I'll go first. I think we're going to win the ACC. We're going to beat Virginia. We're going to beat Georgia Tech. And then we're going to win another one of those close ones against Florida State.
We're going to win it outright or in a tie?
Well, it depends what Virginia does. But if we beat Virginia and we're tied with them in the standings, we're the champs. There's no co-champs. No co-champs. We would have beaten them head-to-head. That's the tiebreaker. Yep, I looked into it. Unless you guys...
It might be for the seedings, but I still think they'd be co-champs.
For the seeding, right? You don't think Virginia's not going to put up a banner if they tie Syracuse for the title?
Well, I don't know. We'll have to get out the old ACC rule book.
Well, they're co-champs, but obviously somebody needs to be seeded number 1. Come the
what I read a while ago, it wasn't this year, but it was a few years ago. The ACC doesn't even sanction their regular season champ. You're the ACC champion if you win the tournament, and only if you win the tournament, which is different than most other leagues, the way they do it. And I don't know if the ACC still approaches it that way. But
it's maybe that's because of the unbalanced schedule. I mean, obviously it's not fair. So, look, Virginia only had to play their double games this year against ACC opponents. None of them have a winning record in ACC play. Right. So obviously they had an easier schedule in the ACC,
which is one reason why I think we're going to beat them. But so where are you guys predicting they're going to finish?
I think they're going to finish for first. I think Syracuse wins out in the regular season.
Brad?
I agree with that completely. I think they win out. They'll be tied for first and get the number 1 seed in the ACC tournament.
Good stuff. Question 5. And I guess we've kind of answered this one, saying that they're going to go undefeated. But is our number 1 seed in Buffalo and Buffalo to MSG path to the Final Four, is that in jeopardy now that we're a 2-loss team?
Yeah. If we lose to Virginia and get knocked out, in the quarters or semis of the ACC tournament, Kansas rolls through, and they roll through their tournament like they always do. You could be looking. Syracuse could be on the outside looking in for number 1 seed. If Arizona, obviously a lot depends on what happens with these other teams,
right.
But I think they got a 75 to 80% chance right now of doing that, and I think if they win Saturday, they're a lock.
Yeah, I think
that number
win
1
Saturday,
seed.
they're a lock.
But you got Arizona. It depends on what they got 2 losses, just like Syracuse. So how do they do? Wichita's not going to lose. They're going to be number 1 seed. Florida is playing well. The SEC's terrible. Unless Kentucky beats them in the SEC tournament, they're not going to lose.
Louisville,
although Florida's had a lot of close calls.
Yeah.
Louisville's numbers aren't real great. If you get into their RPI and BPAI and all that kind of stuff, they're. I saw Joel Lenardi had them as a 5 seed in the NCAA tournament, which is they're ranked like 6th in the country. I think Kansas has the best shot of moving into that. Into a 1 seed, but then it'd be interesting to see who would they send to the number 1 in the East between Florida, Kansas, Wichita, and Arizona. So I like Syracuse's chances, but it's definitely in jeopardy a little bit. There's
if they just beat BC,
yeah, if they would have beaten BC, I think they'd be a lock for it.
Right
it's
now.
just that one bad loss, and they gotta. A lot of things we'll be feeling a lot better if we go down to UVA and beat them.
Any final thoughts on question 5, Brad?
Yeah, well, I wonder too. I mean, we're focused on the number 1 seed. The number 1 seed, if you're Syracuse, allows you to write that ticket to Buffalo in the Garden. But I wonder what their chances are of having that same road with a 2 seed. It would put the number 1 in the East at a disadvantage if you got Syracuse staring at you at a 2 seed and you got that 1 versus 2 Elite 8 game and Syracuse is practically the home team.
We'd probably be the top number 2 seed. We'd probably be like 5th overall seed in the tournament. If we were a 2 seed, we'd probably be one of the top 2 seeds.
That's why. Yeah, so they might end up the 2. They could be the 2 because you would have the best 2 with the worst 1. Right?
Yeah, and there's no.
So whoever, if Syracuse didn't get the 1 in the East, the worst 1 would probably end up in the East because that's not where they're going to be from. Most likely, they're going to be it could be a Kansas coming out here or something.
Florida, Kansas, Arizona.
Maybe we'll be the 2. If Arizona's the 1 in the West, Florida gets the
Wichita
South.
too is another
Wichita
one.
gets the Southwest, or whatever, with the Midwest, and Kansas could come here. Maybe we'll be the 2. I don't care. I wouldn't say I don't care, but as long as they could go Buffalo to MSG to the Final Four, that would be nice.
Right.
And I just was reading something. 6 or 5 out of the last 6 national champions have been a 1 seed. So I think you do take some stock in getting that 1 seed.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think the Buffalo games are in jeopardy. As long as they're a top 4 seed, I think they'll get into Buffalo because they do that pod system, and it doesn't matter what region you're in. And I think they tend to protect the 1 through 4 seed and put them more closer to home. So the Buffalo, I don't think is in jeopardy. It's just really just the Garden. And what I wonder is, we talk about the logic of the best two playing the worst 1 and all that, but do they take into account the fact that if it's a 2 that would practically be playing a home game, does that override the fact that the worst 2 should play the best 1? Because it really puts that 1 at a disadvantage that they probably didn't deserve.
True. Good point. Well, before we step aside for our sponsors break, we got a couple of news bits. First of all, Ron Patterson shaved his dreadlocks, so look for that on Saturday. He probably won't be out on the court, but during warm-ups, you're probably going to wonder who that guy is. It's Ron Patterson. Cut his dreadlocks off. 5,142. I don't know. Do either of you guys have any idea what that number means?
I do, because I can see it on here.
Oh, that's true. You guys both got this script. All right. Well, 5,142 is the number of days between matchups between 2 top 15 teams in Charlottesville. A stretch that goes back to January 31st, 2002 to Saturday when Syracuse visits the number 12 Cavaliers. The last time 2 top 15 teams met at Virginia, number 3 Maryland rallied for a 91-87 victory over the then number 8 Cavs, who eventually just crashed and burned and landed in the NIT that year. So there aren't games like this at Virginia very often, and I think that's going to be quite an atmosphere down there, and it'll be interesting to see if we're up for it. One last news bit. I'm sure you guys have seen it by now. ESPN 30 for 30 on March 16th. Requiem for the Big East. Probably going to be the greatest thing that ever aired on television. Don't you agree?
I can't even tell you how excited I am for this. I wish it was March 16th right now.
I'm equally giddy. It's something actually. Watching 30 for 30s, they're so well done that you're just like, man, I can't wish they do one about Syracuse, or I wish they do one about the Big East. And now they're going to do pretty much a definitive chronology of the Big East Conference, how it came about, how it rose to dominance, and then how it eventually fell apart. So,
but yeah, unfortunately, it'll probably make us sad when it's all said and done.
I'm sure it will. I'm still really upset about that. The fact that everybody's kind of we deal with it now that we're in the ACC, but I miss the Big East, and the time it's going to hit me the most is going to be at the conference tournament when we're down in Greensboro and Villanova and St. John's and Butler are playing in Madison Square Garden.
I think it's going to hit you when you're watching the ACC semifinals Saturday afternoon instead of Friday night, and then you're watching the final Sunday afternoon instead of Saturday night at 9 o'clock.
Meanwhile, I just want to prepare for the Upstate Hoop Selection Sunday special at 9 o'clock. But ESPN 30 for 30, Requiem for the Big East on March 16th. It's going to be great. We're going to step aside for 60 seconds here from the sponsors that make this show possible, and then we'll be right back with some great Syracuse basketball trivia.
We hold on to the things that really matter. Welcome to Generations Bank.
Hi, I'm Jody Torrio. If you're like me, you've got stuff lying around the house that you want to recycle, but you're just not sure how, like broken toasters, vacuum cleaners, or microwaves. At Seneca Meadows, we have a drop-off for those. Bring in anything with a cord, and we'll make sure it's recycled properly through our partnership with 2TRG. It's that easy.
And welcome back to the Upstate Orange podcast on FingerLakes1.tv. Remember, you can subscribe to us on iTunes, search for Upstate Hoops. Subscribe to us on YouTube at FingerLakes1.com, search for FingerLakes1.com, subscribe to that channel. Visit us online at podcast.fingerlakes1.com/Upstate Hoops, and there you can hook up with us on Twitter and Facebook. And we're also on Stitcher.com. Or you can subscribe to our RSS feed. Basically, we're everywhere that you want us to be. So, Brad, what do you got for us this week in terms of Syracuse basketball trivia?
Not exactly Syracuse basketball trivia, but we've got Virginia coming up. Not exactly a long, productive history between Syracuse and Virginia. But Virginia does have some deep basketball history if you go back 1980 or so. And since, Burke, you spent 4 years of your life in the Commonwealth of Virginia, I spent 8 years of my life in Virginia, we should have a little bit of background on some of this stuff. So I want to see how well you guys know the University of Virginia basketball program. First of all, guys, tell me who the coach is of Virginia right now.
You want this one, Burke?
Go ahead.
The funny thing is the stupid thing about this trivia is I know the answer to this, but now that I can picture him, he looks like Stu Miller. A young Stu Miller. Geez, this is embarrassing now. Just say his name so you can end this, Brad.
Tony Bennett.
Yeah, of course. Obviously.
Here's a crazy bit of trivia. It's not even a question. But Tony Bennett doesn't really, he looks like a basketball coach. It's a mid-major kind of guy.
Yep.
You guys realize that he played in the NBA for the Charlotte Hornets back in the mid-'90s, where producer Jeremy Hudson had watched him from time to time back in the day?
Yeah, no kidding. I think I used him on NBA Live 96. On Sega.
What college
on the sideline Saturday night. Picture him playing in the NBA, and you simply can't do it.
What college did he go to?
Wisconsin. Wisconsin Green Bay.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, played for his dad.
Yep.
So who did Tony Bennett replace? Who are the most recent? See if you can name me the most recent 5 coaches at UVA.
Oh, there's no way, because the last one I remember is Terry Holland, and that's going back to like the late '90s, right?
Well,
Yeah, Terry Holland. Terry Holland left Virginia in 1990.
Jeff Jones.
Jeff Jones is one. Yep, Jeff Jones replaced Terry Holland.
He was coaching when I was playing at William Mary.
Did you ever play there at Virginia?
Twice.
Yep.
Had some pretty good games there, actually. UVA coaches.
Maybe our producer Jeremy Hunt might have somebody. Now he's shaking his head. Wow. Geez, Virginia coaches trying to.
I can give you some clues.
We're gonna need him.
The guy that replaced Jeff Jones came from Xavier.
Doesn't help.
And now he's an announcer.
Former Xavier coach, now an announcer.
Yep. Former Xavier coach, former Virginia coach. He's kind of an obnoxious announcer. You probably don't enjoy listening to him very much.
Oh, no, that's not who I'm thinking of.
Got a thick, heavy Brooklyn accent.
It's not Seth Greenberg. He's a Virginia Tech coach.
Right. He was at Xavier right before Skip Prosser.
Doesn't do anything for me.
Pete Gillen.
Oh, of course. He's dead, right?
No, Skip Prosser died. Pete Gillen's still kicking.
Okay.
He's still announcing bad basketball games.
Yeah, that one we should have known.
Yeah.
It's late, Brad. We've
And
had
you
a
probably
long
wouldn't
night.
have known. This would be the only one I wouldn't expect you to know. But this guy coached at DePaul and then left DePaul. to
Oh,
go to
Oliver
Virginia
Purnell.
for about
No,
4
he
years.
went to Clemson.
No, that was Oliver Purnell.
Joey Meyer Jr.
Dave Leto.
Oh, yeah, he's Hall of Fame coach, right? Along with Boeheim.
Right. Yeah, something like that. Who's the leading scorer in the history of Virginia basketball?
It's not Ralph Sampson, right? 3 years?
Not Ralph Sampson. Ralph Sampson is 4th on the career points list.
Wow. Great Virginia Cavalier basketball players.
I bet you I know who their all-time three-point leading shooter is.
Tell me.
Curtis Staples.
I'll tell you if you're right.
Is
I
he
think
one of the
might
top
be
4
right.
scorers?
Career three-pointers. Curtis Staples. Yeah. Oh, yeah. He's far
He
and
killed
away.
it. That's
Good
he was a little bit younger than me.
Yeah.
So
was
is he one of the
98.
top 4 then?
No, maybe Corey Alexander. Is he?
Oh, good guess.
Corey Alexander is not. That's a pretty good guess. Corey Alexander is.
Jeez.
Actually, he's down the list. He's 25th on the list.
Really?
So no, not a very good guess.
I think he stayed 4 years.
He did.
Are these guys in the NBA now, or did they have NBA careers?
This guy played in the NBA for a while. Played for the Nuggets for a long time. The number 1 guy.
Not Andre Miller.
So you never played against the Burke, but he was somewhere
Before or after me?
Fat Lever?
before.
Before me.
Oh,
Not Fat Lever.
oh.
Jesus. I have no idea.
Ryan Stith.
Oh, yeah, good. Yeah, he was a good shooting guard.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, you'll never get the rest of these guys. Number 2 is Jeff Lamp. Played on the Sampson teams.
Freaking Virginia.
And then Sampson. There's one old guy. I don't count him. Sean Singletary played like 5 years ago.
Yeah.
I thought he was linebacker for the Bears.
Point guard.
And then the next guy, Burke, is the guy you played against.
Not Curtis Staples.
Not Curtis Staples. Curtis Staples is 10th on their all-time scoring list.
Okay.
He's not too far down. Junior Burrow.
What?
Junior Burrow is He's sixth on the all-time Virginia point.
Wow, that's surprising. I could name their starting five from my freshman year. We took them to overtime. They were ranked in top 25.
You know what? So I was going to ask.
Was my senior year, I think.
Your
Or
junior year.
my junior year, we didn't play them.
True or false? They were ranked every time you played them.
False.
True. They were ranked every time
Wow.
you played them.
You got Verks line in those games?
No, I don't have box scores.
At Virginia, I had 20-something.
Nice.
I know that. We played them at home, actually.
Freshman year.
They,
You guys there.
They had just beat Duke 2 games before coming to play us. We took them to overtime. It was the only game in my college career I didn't score. And then my sophomore year,
Doc, they put Junior Burrow on you?
they did. I was a small forward. And then my sophomore year, we played them there, and they beat us pretty good. In my junior year, we started out pretty good against them, but obviously they ended up beating us. That was my senior year.
Ranked, and then 12th ranked, and then 15th ranked.
Wow.
Yeah, so that was Matt Berkey trivia right
The
there.
one year they had Courtney Alexander transfer from Fresno State. Not Corey,
Fresno
Courtney.
State.
Remember him?
Yeah, I remember.
Or he transferred to Fresno State. One or the other.
He transferred out there, yeah.
And he was like a third-team All-American out there.
Right, yeah, he was great. I don't know what happened to him at Virginia. They had another guy on the top 10 you played against, Harold Dean.
Yep.
He was a guard. I remember watching
He was a
him
little
in high
bit
school
younger than
Richmond
me.
before he went out to Charlottesville.
The real story of this segment is that we didn't know who Tony Bennett. We couldn't come up with Tony Bennett. I mean, that's embarrassing.
That sets the tone for the UVA trivia.
Cornell Parker.
Minus. He's on this list somewhere. I can't find him.
Jared Jeffries, or who's the other big guy?
Oh, Ted Jeffries.
Ted Jeffries.
Yeah, he does their radio broadcast now.
Yeah, I've seen him before.
So Ralph Sampson has in his career plus or minus 75 double doubles in his career.
I'll say
Plus.
plus. Yeah, that's why you're bringing it up. Every game he probably had a double-double.
He had 84 double doubles in his career.
Not bad.
Just insane over a 4-year career.
Curtis Blow always said that he was really mean. Right?
Yeah, Ralph Sampson's really mean.
He was an assistant at James Madison when I was at William Mary. Remember that?
What was that?
Ralph Sampson was an assistant at James Madison when I was
I do remember
playing.
that. He grew up in Harrisonburg. He grew up right up the street from JMU. And then he lived in Richmond a long time. I saw him at the airport once. 7-foot guy. Nobody gave a crap. How many wins does Virginia have in the NCAA tournament since 1995?
3.
I'm going to say 6.
You guys are both well over. They have one NCAA tournament victory since 1995.
Can you imagine? They're in ACC school.
2007.
That's the ACC is
They beat
terrible.
Albany as a 13,
You
and
guys.
they lost the next round. That was
Terrible. One of their conference members, a school like Virginia, has one win in the NCAA tournament since '95. How can any fans even go to their games anymore? Wouldn't you just give up, go over to Virginia Tech, and then realize that's just as bad, and then maybe start following William and Mary?
It's bad. How many losses does Syracuse have in their history against Virginia?
Losses? I'm going to say 1. We're 3-1 against Virginia. I do know that, or at least I think I know that.
That's a good answer. 3-1. Do you remember the loss?
We beat them twice in a home and home in the late '90s. Both close games.
Yep. Both. One was a 2-point, one was a 3-point game.
Was the loss their lone NCAA tournament win?
No, but it was an NCAA tournament win.
Back in the Ralph Sampson days. Oh, I know what it was. It It was 1984, Pearl's freshman year.
That is correct. Very good answer. 1984. Virginia won 63-55 in the NCAAs.
Second round, third round?
1990, Syracuse beat Virginia in the NCAAs.
What was that game in 84? Was that a second round game?
I believe it was, but I'd have to double check.
No worries. But yeah, that was real sad.
No, Syracuse said in 84 was the Sweet 16.
Oh, Sweet 16, so we had a chance to go to the Elite Eight with Pearl's freshman year. Pearl's career was very disappointing in the NCAA tournament.
It was their second game. They beat VCU. Syracuse beat VCU in the first round, but because there were. That's all I got for you. That's all the Virginia trivia I can muster.
Well, next time we got it, like for next week when we play Georgia Tech, I'm going to bone up on Georgia Tech stuff. I probably know more about Georgia
Kenny
Tech
Anderson.
than Virginia. Yeah, John Sally. All right, well, let's move ahead to our list of the week. Real short one this week. We've got 3 games left. I just want to play the old percentage game. I want your percentage that we're going to win each of these games, starting out with the Virginia game. I'm going to say I feel good about this game. I feel really good about it. I'm putting it at 80% that we win at Virginia.
I'll go 60.
Okay. Brad, what's your confidence level?
60 was the number I had in front of me, too.
Jeez. Maybe, well.
Georgia Tech, you must have like 150 then.
Well, let's find out. Georgia Tech, 13-14, 162. I got that at, we did lose to BC. I'm going to say 95% victory there. We got them at home in the Dome.
I'll go with 85.
Senior day for CJ Fair by Musakita.
Yeah, the BC game sticks in all of our heads when we're doing stuff like this now. I say 85, just like Matt said.
Okay, and then finally, March 9th, 1 week from Sunday, it's at Florida State. They're 16-11. They were supposed to be better than they have been. Going down to Florida to end the season, man, this ACC business is really not that great. That one scares me a little bit. I'm going to put it at 80% though. Same as Virginia.
I'm going to say 68.
Okay. Wow. Brad?
Yeah, I say 70.
All right. Well, let's hope the odds hold true. Because that's it. Then it's on to the ACC tournament and beyond. So power ranking time. This should be interesting. I'll go last.
Go ahead, Brad.
I'll go first. I have number 5. I have Creighton. That's a team that I would not want to match up against right now. I'm playing great. Doug McDermott's awesome. Number 4, I have Syracuse. Dropped them after the Duke loss and after the Maryland scare because Maryland stinks. And I actually dropped. I think less of Syracuse after the Maryland game than I do after the Duke game. Syracuse 4, Wichita 3. They're undefeated. Hard to argue with that, but I still don't think they're as strong top to bottom as the top 2. Number 2, I've got Arizona. Has really rallied since they lost those 2 games and have had a great week, I thought. And number 1, Florida.
All right, Virk.
I'm gonna go back and forth on this a lot, but I'll go. Florida hasn't been playing that great either to me. They've had a couple of games that they just pulled out, but I'm gonna go Kansas 5. I think they're hitting their stride. They've been just playing really well, I think, lately. I'm gonna go Wichita State 4, Syracuse 3. Arizona 2, Florida 1.
I got Arizona 5, Louisville 4, Florida 3, Syracuse 2, Wichita State 1. They're 30-0, guys. Nobody's ever done that. And talk about their schedule. I mean, there's lots of mid-major teams that are very good that they've lost games. And this is a team that was in the Final Four last year. They come back, win 30 in a row. I got no problem putting them as the number one team in the country right now. Winning 30 basketball games in a row. They're only 40 minutes long. All these teams have good players, you know. It's pretty amazing to me. I would have assumed, you know, once they got up to around the 20 mark that they were due for a loss, kind of like we were. But they've been able to hold on, and I'm impressed. They got 2 NBA players on their team, too. So.
Yeah, they've got talent. I think we kind of overlooked the talent that they have because, you know, they play the mid-major schedule. But they've got ACC level talent. There's no question about that.
They beat Villanova this year, right?
They beat St. Louis was their best win.
Who I wouldn't want to play St. Louis in the NCAAs. I'll tell you that right now. So there you go. There's our power rankings. Bold predictions time. Last week I said Boeheim plays 8 guys versus Duke, which was bold, and I was wrong. They played 7. Verk, you said that Syracuse would be ranked number 1 on Monday, but they weren't. They're 4th. Brad, perhaps with one of the best attempts at a correct bold prediction, said that Cooney would be shut out at Duke. What do you have? 2? 2 free throws?
He had 4. He had 2 free
4.
throws and a basket. They had 2 baskets.
Essentially shut out.
Bro.
But nonetheless, not.
No, 1 basket and a free throw.
Yeah.
Yeah, 4 points. When I said shutout, I meant completely scoreless, and then he made like the first 2-pointer of the game, and it was over. But yeah, the 3-pointers. If it was on the basis of 3-pointers, then yeah, I win.
And then Zach Young, who was in studio with us last week, said Ennis will score over 25 points in one of the next games. He certainly tried. He shot more, but with less success. And so we need bold predictions for this week. Why don't you give me yours, Brad?
My bold prediction is that UVA won't score more than 40 points in Saturday night's game.
Well, I could see that. So the 40 points won't score more than 40. Okay, gotcha. Duly noted. Burke?
Oh. I've been so bad on these. I'm just kind of at a loss.
Well, because we try to go big. They're bold predictions,
Yeah.
you know, and it's when you try to go big, sometimes you reach for the stars. You know, sometimes you just come up short and just get the moon.
I'll go with Benajay leads them in scoring against UVA.
Wow. Well, he has been playing better. I would like to see more of him, but leads him in scoring. Wow. That is bold. That is bold. My prediction, less bold than Verk's. I predict that we open up, expand, and maintain a lead over Virginia and win by double digits. Something we haven't done much at all this year. We'll open up the lead. We will be about to extend it, and then next thing you know, it's a 6-point game again, and then next thing you know, that Maryland's got the ball with a chance to win. You know what I mean? And you're like, what's going on here? But that's not going to happen against Virginia. So, all right, coming up on 10:54 East Coast time on Thursday, February 27th. Time for 2 for the road. Don't you guys miss Louisville? Can't you wait to be together again with good old Louisville and Rick Pitino battling them out? I mean, I watched that Louisville-Cincy game, and I was like, damn, I miss Louisville, even though they seem to beat us quite a bit. I think that's the piece that's missing to this ACC puzzle, where it finally feels like, all right, we're good to go. This is our conference. Let's play some basketball.
Yeah, I always enjoy games against Louisville, just their style of play, and I don't know if it's just I've enjoyed some of the play, like Russ Smith. I enjoy watching him play, and obviously national champions last year. It'll be fun to get another one of our old rivals back on the schedule.
You miss Louisville, Brad?
Yeah, I'd love to see him on the schedule, and looking forward to next year. Selfishly, because I can drive down to Louisville, and it's an hour and a half away, and watch Syracuse play down there.
Yeah.
I've been there now a couple times to see that game, and that's a fantastic place to watch a game. But it's also it seems like it always comes down to maybe the last possession or at least the last minute between those two teams.
Yeah, I really think that's the ACC becomes that super basketball conference that everybody was thinking it would be after we got these teams in with Pitt and Syracuse. Louisville's the final piece of the puzzle. I mean, imagine if Louisville was in there. Now you'd have 3 top 10 teams, and I think it's going to be feel a lot more comfortable when Louisville comes to town, and when we play Louisville. Now that's another thing, the way scheduling works out for the ACC this year or going forward. They got some issues, and I'll tell you one thing: they're going to make sure that Syracuse plays Duke as much as possible. I think they're going to somehow figure out a way that we play Duke twice a year if they're going to get that type of viewership. And I don't know exactly how they do that, but if they're keeping their eye on their wallet, they're going to have Syracuse playing Duke twice. They're going to want Syracuse playing Louisville twice. I don't know if that comes at the expense of us playing Boston College twice, but I don't know how they'll do it. But it'll probably end up leading to Syracuse having a tougher schedule than other teams in the ACC. But I just have a feeling they're going to make it happen one way or another.
I think one other thing it's going to do is to make the ACC as top-heavy as it's ever been. And it's always been very top-heavy because you had one more good team that's just going to give teams like Georgia Tech and BC and Virginia Tech another 2 losses.
That's why Maryland's going to the Big Ten.
And
yeah,
I think, when you say it's a top-heavy league, that in the past it was really Duke, North Carolina, and then every year maybe one other team might be decent. But, now you're adding Syracuse, Louisville, and now it becomes less top-heavy and more just strong, I mean, how deep do you go at the top before it stops being top-heavy? I mean, even in the Big East.
And they've got 4 or 5, and then the rest of them stink.
Yeah, and Virginia's that team. Last year it was Miami. This year it's Virginia. It's always Duke, Carolina, and then one other team sneaks in there each year, and it doesn't make for such great competition, I would say. But all right, fellas, final Virginia prediction, and then we can head out of here back into that 7-degree temperatures outside with 30-mile-per-hour winds up here in upstate New York. Final Virginia prediction.
55-47 Syracuse.
Okay, Brad?
Syracuse 55, Virginia 52. UVA misses a 3 at the buzzer. Syracuse wins.
Whoa, I thought you were going to have them score less than 40.
Well, that was a bold prediction. That wasn't a legitimate prediction.
Okay, well, here's my prediction. Syracuse 54, Virginia 37. Mark it down.
Bold as far as you're concerned.
Virginia plays ugly. They play ugly basketball.
They average 66 points a game. Joe Harris averaged almost 17 points a game last year. He's averaging just over 11 this year. This team is they're your classic. You've seen a lot of teams do it to Syracuse. These guys do it the best of anybody. They're one of the top defensive teams in the country. And it's going to be an interesting matchup. Syracuse can play that style. Obviously, they've done it all year. And I just think we're more athletic than them. I think we're going to be able to score a little bit. Even though they are this great defensive team, I think we're going to be able to take advantage of them on the backboards a little bit. And I feel pretty confident.
Well, fellas, we've done it again. Next week we come back on Thursday night at 9, and then is Selection Sunday the following week?
The 16th, I believe, of March.
So we'll be back here for 2 more Thursdays before finally we move the show from Thursday night live to Sunday night, beginning with Selection Sunday, because it doesn't make much sense to do a podcast on Thursday night when that's the first round of the NCAA Tournament and then the first round of the Sweet 16. We do it on Sunday night because all the action's behind us. We got a lot to talk about. So we'll let you know when we do officially make that change, but it'll obviously be Selection Sunday. And I think we'd only move it to 9 p.m. too when we move to Sunday instead of 10. It's because we're up too late.
Works for me.
Can't even remember Tony Bennett's name. So late up here. All right, Brad. Well, you have yourself a good week. Enjoy the game Saturday. Same to you, Virk. Thanks again for joining us, guys.
Good night.
And thanks to all the listeners for joining us on the Upstate Orange podcast. You can subscribe to our feed on iTunes, Stitcher, YouTube, or via RSS. We're online at podcast.fingerlakes1.com/upstatehoops. We'll be back again live next Thursday night at 10 p.m. Eastern as we will do our first show in March. For my co-host Matt Verkey, Brad Connor, our producer Jeremy Hunt, I'm Jim Sinacropi. Let's go Orange!